Robin Hood Radio presents Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens. Michele is a longtime journalist and herself is a published playwright of several theatrical works. She's a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post, Daily Beast, and the Atlantic websites.
Another opening of another show.
Well, we knew it would be a slow week in terms of theatrical entertainment, even of the streamed variety, but there is plenty coming up as we start a new and thankfully last month of 2020. Now, as for any real news from that world, it's pretty silent. In fact, as the Grammy nominations were announced and covered thoroughly last week, I suddenly thought, hey, whatever happened to the Tonys? They did announce the nominees in mid-October, saying that a date for the virtual ceremony, likely at this year's end, and a host would be announced. Well, I find it hard to believe something could be put together in the next month. If not, well, yet another delay of a delay. Now, it's not that the community doesn't keep trying to help us see some sunshine through the clouds. Musically, for example, a new album from the Hadestown cast called If the Fates Allow has just been released. And the Kelly O'Hara concert that I raved about recently is being put back up. So you have another week to watch that beautiful woman with the beautiful voice take us through some of the songs that have meant the most in her career. You can find tickets through the New York Pops website. And I already have my ticket for the other great voice of our times, Audra McDonald, but that concert is a few weeks off, though you can listen to Audra, the actress not singing, on the Williamstown Theater Festival's all-audio series just getting underway. Here she performs as Blanche in Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire, which she and the other actors recorded from their own closets. Williamstown is hoping grateful supporters will come through big time here. And keep an eye on the Christmas Carol, or I should say Christmas carols, of which there will be many, no doubt, offered, including one from the Old Vic in London, and then there is the one-man version of the Dickens classic, which I reviewed here last year. It came from the Geffen Playhouse in Los Angeles and became a very hot ticket there. And that's because the one man who played every role, 50 of them, was Jefferson Mays, former Tony winner. In my book, he's right behind Mark Rylance as the actor who can do anything. You can stream that from now until 2021. Also coming up, and also from Los Angeles, by the way, the Jewish Women's Theater is doing an event next Sunday. That's December 6th. 2 p.m. East Coast time, about the great writer, singer, Leonard Cohen. Music and poetry here, and I'll be there. Keeping up on that theme, tomorrow, as in December 1st, I will be watching something from the Central Massachusetts Jewish Theater Company. This one is called The Rain and the Wind, The Life and Songs of Bob Dylan. Let's not forget he was born one Robert Zimmerman. And closer to home, from December 2nd to 6th, the Actors Fund is doing a reading of another, if lesser, Tennessee Williams work, The Night of the Iguana. This one stars Dylan McDermott and Felicia Rashad. You can find it through Ticket Central's site. I vote yes on anything Rashad is part of, in front of or behind the so-called camera. On December 5th, you can go to roundhousetheater.org to see a play by the formerly famous but largely forgotten Adrian Kennedy. Now, I had seen and reported on one of the works of this black playwright in Brooklyn a few years ago. The piece on Saturday is called Ohio State Murders. Also on Saturday, December 5th, Santino Fontana can be enjoyed yet again, this time in one called Happy Couple. Now, that's through something called New Work Virtual Festival on YouTube. 20 new scripts are going to be read over the next few weeks there. Always good to see what original ideas are being written and managing to get seen and heard these days. In fact, check out Project Y's Zoom plays, free. They begin tonight with one called Missing Ingredient. That's at 7:30. Next one up is Wednesday, same time, called Soup. I'm sensing a delicious theme there. On that subject, one of New York's most interesting off-Broadway companies, Ars Nova, is offering a 24-hour telethon of original material starting December 4th. free of charge. The New York Times said the Ars Nova Forever Telethon is one of those events you'll brag about having watched later. And Theater of War has yet another presentation, Sunday, December 6th, of Sophocles Meets Current Issues. This one is the Book of Job project. It stars David Strathairn and Bill Murray. Yes, you heard that right, Bill Murray. The key is to keep checking what is coming from any and everywhere. For example, I bought a 45-pound ticket for one night only, from London. That's Knight. To stream Judi Dench, Maggie Smith, and Ian McKellen being interviewed, sort of, by host Kenneth Branagh, who also read questions from viewers. This was priceless chatter and memories about the ghosts of theater's past, on stage and off. And then there's Judi Dench recalling the day she prepared for her role in the James Bond films. There's a funny story there. And I do hope this one will air again. Let's keep an eye on YouTube. Finally, Saturday, December 5th, the New York Times is doing its next Offstage Hour, this one discussing stage plays being turned into films, for streaming mostly these days, of course. I just wrote an article on the same subject, and I can tell you that the three to watch this month are Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, starring Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman in his last performance. That's an adaptation of August Wilson's play. The adaptation is done by Ruben Santiago Hudson, amazing guy that I interviewed. Then there is The Prom, adapted from the Broadway musical, starring Nicole Kidman and Meryl Streep. And finally, there's One Night in Miami, based on a little-known play by one Kemp Powers, who I also spoke with. I'll discuss more about these next week. But the bottom line is people are tired of big and noisy, and they're not going to the multiplex. So, Jill, maybe this will turn them on to the very idea of what they might find on actual stages.
Wouldn't that
open again?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be kind of a silver lining nobody expected? Hey, maybe things they do on stage aren't so bad. You know, in the old days, almost every show from Broadway, certainly every musical, was immediately turned into a film. But you'd be surprised how little that's been done, really, since 2000, since the year 2000. Very few.
Well, it started, yes, but remember, there was a moment there where it started going back, where that started happening again. And I think it was X number of years ago, but...
yeah, Chicago.
Yeah, who was it? Catherine Zeta-Jones. It was Chicago, and it looked as though there were some other... Right around that same time, and I'm blanking now.
Well, that started a so-called trend, and Mamma Mia did well, but you'd be surprised the ones that didn't do well. Sweeney Todd came, they did a version of that. There were a number that came and went quickly. And dramas, very few dramas have been done this
right
century.
Now, speaking of dramas, I'm just going back to it. Is A Few Good Men. This is people barely connect, though. They barely connect that A Few Good Men was a play.
A play first, yeah. Aaron Sorkin,
and that was pre-West. But again, it would be wonderful if the people who were in charge of writing about all of this, made those connections, because that is in its own way informative and it gives context that doesn't otherwise exist. I wanted to ask you a slightly different question, though. Did you see how did you see any of the Thanksgiving Day parade? And the reason I'm asking is because of the performance.
They had some Broadway numbers. Yeah, I was going to mention those. They seem to be lip synced, obviously, which makes sense. They're out in the middle of wherever they were, and pre-recorded. But yeah, you got to see the Temptation show. By the way, none of those performers were the ones in the original one, so they probably were the understudies, which is fine. God bless them. And what other ones did they do? Jagged Little Pill.
But did you get the? I noticed, and this is just my opinion. It felt even though it was recorded. Sometimes when you record something live, it has a different sense to it. And this felt recorded.
I totally agree. Even my husband walked by and he said, boy, they're lip syncing, and that's pre-recorded. It was difficult to do. Obviously, everything was you got balloons without people looking at them. Did they have balloons? I guess they had balloons. Yes, they had balloons.
I was just as I think I did a Your Husband. I walked by. I mean, I flipped it and I saw, wow, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna watch. And then it was just it was the recording that I've just what it most illustrated was that there's a difference between live, watching live, and watching recorded. And that might go back to what we were talking before about the films. Although
I think, frankly, I think in the Macy's day, always the Broadway show numbers were pre-recorded and lip sync, but they kind of looked more real. And,
that's because they were down. Because they were. Yeah. And I'm going to say the same thing, and somebody could say, well, they were down there too, but it is different when you are coming out of 8 performances a week. It's just got a completely. It's live. It's just is. So, live recorded and live recorded actually end up creating a different experience.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was thinking that I still have my notes from the last play that I saw on Broadway, which was March, whenever it was. It was literally 2 days before they closed Broadway, and it was for Tracy Lett's play, Minutes, which was about to open. This was a press preview. And I thought it might be fun to go back and look at those notes a year later, see if that play ever comes back. And it's just hard to believe it's been this long. We're coming on
9 months. You could have a baby.
And a lot of people have.
Well, there's that.
Not me, but a lot of others. You could have a grandbaby.
All right, well.
Anyway, what can I say? But we got a lot coming up this week, so I'll have a lot to talk about next week, including some Christmas stuff.
Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens, produced in the studios of Robin Hood Radio, robinhoodradio.com.